welcome to Found in Translation, a weekly-ish exploration of one fellow's translation of the Christian scriptures, one chapter or so at a time. I'm Brandon Rhodes, and across the internet from me is the translator himself, Brandon Johnson. Hi, Brandon.
Hey, Brandon.
Good to see you this morning. Our guest co-host today is Frances Cutshaw. Frances is the founder and wilderness abbess of the Order of Hildegard, an order I am a grateful member of. They are also a D-Min student who submitted her dissertation, Shame as the Great Obstacle and Unexpected Invitation to Shalom, just earlier this month. And she hails from the tribal lands of, I didn't put it in the notes.
That's okay, the Muskogee Creek, and also Pensacola is named for the Pensacola people from
Wonderful.
A long time ago, yes. Northwestern Florida, yeah.
Uh-huh. Great. Frances, welcome to the show. We are glad you're here to talk about Matthew 5.
Thrilled to be here. Love Matthew 5.
Yeah.
So spent a lot of time with it recently.
When we put feelers out there for different co-hosts for this season, and which chapter are you feeling like people dove for Matthew 5 and 25? So way to be first to tackle that one. Could you tell folks a little bit more about the Order of Hildegard?
Sure, and this is where I'm going to really discipline myself and just read you the mission statement to start out with. Otherwise, I'll go in a million directions because we have so many things going on. The Order of Hildegard is an unaffiliated community of practice which exists to center, celebrate, and develop the interfaith, cross-vocational spiritual leadership of those marginalized by traditional religious structures such as LGBTQIA+, Black, Indigenous, people of color, and otherwise known as the global majority, people with disabilities and neurodiversities, and those otherwise disillusioned with the harmful, puritanical, patriarchal religious structures. We transform public and private spiritual ethics and practices in a wide range of settings and traditions, cultivating a vibrant, widespread community while sharing resources for the thriving of our members and to impact the larger culture. Longest mission statement ever, and we don't care.
Oh. Own it. Own it. And what does that actually mean?
You want
What's
me
it
to
look
tell you
like?
what it
Tell
means? I don't know.
no,
Just the
I think-
founder.
yeah.
I'm just kidding. Well, we are forming a community of refuge and affirming and celebrating the leadership of people who don't feel comfortable in traditional religious structures, either because they don't subscribe to traditional beliefs or any beliefs. Of course, any beliefs that fit language that they can come up with according to the way that they've been exposed to religion or faith, and because they've been marginalized because of their identity. So we spend time developing, and allies, and we spend time developing those folks as leaders, as community chaplains, which in itself is an entirely different model. The focus is on becoming the kind of leader that you need in your community if you're not a part of the church. So in terms of
Love
spiritual
it.
leadership, yeah.
That's delightful. It's been a real joy and stimulating season for me to get to be developing the relationships with my cohort and be in a co-learning space again. So often people doing kind of sacred community work, it can be lonely, and the denominational or religious collegial support can be kind of trash.
Yeah.
So finding a way to be with other soulful folks doing soul work and community work who don't fit the mold has been just a blast. Holy shit, are we all neurospicy? Cool. And how did that get us to where we are? I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we are talking this week about just one chapter, Matthew chapter 5. If you haven't had a chance to read Brandon's translation, for those watching, we're going to have it up on the screen here momentarily. And for those of you listening, we highly encourage you to read it through a link in the episode notes. Be sure to check out the footnotes as well. There's lots of nerdery in there. So go ahead, check it out, hit pause if you need to, and give it a read. We'll be back. Okay, hey everybody, welcome back. We are looking at Matthew 5, which is the start of what's popularly called the Sermon on the Mount, 3 chapters, where Jesus is dropping some knowledge. Brandon, what do you want to say? Can you set up the sermon a bit for you and what surfaced for you in doing this translation work about its nature?
Yeah, yeah. Um, I mean, it's like the chapter, right? Like it's this foundational kind of what is Jesus all about, and kind of the new Moses angle, um, and yeah, I see this as, especially the Beatitudes part of it, is the sense of, okay, how do we live in a way that gets us to a world, a culture, a community that makes things good for everybody. Um, and then the rest of the chapter is some of the things that tend to get in the way of that, and like, okay, so what do we do with that? How do we think about that instead? How do we approach it instead? And because it really is about everybody, as I have in my translation here, having reason for gratitude and being a community of love.
Mm.
So kind of finding those things and leaning into those things. And um, this is one where we haven't talked about it as much this season, but trying to avoid good and bad or good and evil as the translation for those Greek words, and trying to,
Oh, yeah.
okay, so what kind of good, what kind of bad, or what kind of evil are we talking about here? And leaning on other definitions of those Greek words, and I think that has some particular payoff in this chapter as well.
Awesome. That'll be good to look through. Francis, what made you want to do this chapter?
Oh, well, so much. I mean, I feel like the way that I describe this in my work is that this is the moment when you can pay the most attention to who Christ was saying he was, or what he cared about, or his theology. Because, I mean, there's so many things that can be taken out of context. And of course, you have to run everything through such a filter anyway. But this is public theology for public consumption without the context of just an individual relationship or an interpretation of that can be skewed by, what is interpreted that one person needs in one setting. And so to me, this is gold because it's so easy to understand that it was intended for broad consumption, and
Mm,
perhaps in over obviously many eras. So
absolutely. Well, with that, let's give it a read. Brandon, could you read us the Beatitudes?
Yeah. Um, Having seen the crowds, Jesus went up the hill, and after he had sat down, his students came to him, and he opened his mouth and began to teach. He said to them, "The poor who are with the life breath have reason for gratitude, because the heavenly rain is for them. Those who are grieving have reason for gratitude, because they will be consoled. Those who are gentle have reason for gratitude, because they will inherit the earth. Those who hunger and thirst for justice have reason for gratitude, because their craving will be satisfied. Those who are committed to compassion have reason for gratitude, because they will be shown committed compassion. Those whose hearts are clean have reason for gratitude, because they will see God. Those who make peace have reason for gratitude, because they will be named children of God. Those who are harassed because of their justness have reason for gratitude, because the heavenly rain is for them. When people verbally abuse you and harass you and falsely claim every harmful thing about you because of me, you have reason for gratitude. Rejoice and celebrate it, because your payment in the heavenly rain will be large. Before you, they harass the prophets in the same way." The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God. Were there any decisive moments in here where it kind of clicked for you about in the translation of?
I think really wrestling what to do with blessed traditionally is blessed, um, was one that I spent a lot of time on, and then even when I went back and did my update to Matthew. So for anybody who's watched season one or listened to season one of this, you notice that it's different. So I used to have are gratified, and sitting with it longer. I don't think that's a wrong word, but I think have reason for gratitude is trying to what that's trying to get to, I think. And so like some translations say happy, and blessed is just this word that is religious jargon at this point. Um, but it is the sense of something good is coming, is here, and it inspires gratitude. It inspires positive feelings, even though some of these other things are really hard. It's like those who hunger and thirst for justness have reason for gratitude because their craving will be satisfied. It's talking about like right now it's the hunger and thirst, right? The the justice is not here yet. That's not how we experience life currently. It's pretty unjust a lot of the time. Um, but I can have, because I have the hope of knowing that it will be satisfied, I can feel gratitude now.
Mm.
This is beautiful. I was so grateful to read through it before getting together, and I just really appreciate what you're sharing there about wrestling with the word blessed. And yeah, this is good stuff. This is an honor to read this, really.
Yeah, stepping away from the word blessed does feel really good. It just means what the hell did that word even mean? Yeah, it just starts to sound like a sound more than a word. Or if it does sound like a word, it often just gets dragged through the mud of like hashtag blessed, and it just feels kind of icky. So that the fact that the Greek has space within it to be enunciated more like this of having reason for gratitude. I love that. I've already like my own trying to figure out what does it mean to say God like does things in the world, and like wow, God made that view or that hillside or like provided this thing, that like really meticulously active God is something that I've intellectually struggled with, where people say, oh, God blessed me with this thing. And what I had to do was say, well, I don't know if that's like how God work, how the divine like engages reality, but I know that I can be grateful and that I can direct my gratitude to the divine for that regardless. And so you've just like relaxed this tensed muscle in me of how do I respond if God is like all controlling? I'm kind of freaked out, but holy shit, I know I know to be thankful for goodness.
Yeah, I also have at times struggled with that sort of the binary nature of blessing, blesser, receiver, and when when my theology or our theology or spirituality has been more disconnected from God, that becomes even more problematic, right? Because it's like this thing outside of me happening to me and allowing me to be a part of, as opposed to kind of an ontology of being blessed for being human, which I think is what,
Mm,
I love this interpretation, and I love this translation. And also, I love this passage anyway, because for me, what I see is just the humanity, and this translation even emphasizes that even more because it gives us fresh eyes, right? But I just see humanity. That which makes us human is that which makes us grateful,
mm,
and what makes us gives us reason to be grateful, or in the or older version, blessed. But yeah, there's an incarnational like goodness that has nothing to do with religion or creed,
mm.
or it's just humanity, you know.
Being human is a blessing.
Yes.
Being a
Mm.
creature on this planet is blessing, is reason for gratitude.
Yeah, grieving. Yeah, being is a human
Hmm.
thing. There's no religious expectation or behavioral request in any of these.
That's an amazing point.
I mean, other than the
Yeah,
indication that we
yeah,
have a reason to be grateful, but there's no command of religion in this. This is to me what brings me joy in
right.
sharing this is that this is a in your humanness. That's what is, you know,
Mm-hmm.
when you hunger, when you're grieving, when your heart is aching, when you're getting beat up for making peace. Mhm.
Brandon, can you unpack a little bit verse 3? The poor who are with the life breath have a reason for gratitude. Yes. It's been such like the poor in spirit is such a weird place of debate. So tell me how you came to this.
Yeah. A lot of wrestling with it, and fully willing to admit this may not be the best way. Basically, what I found as I was exploring the history of translation around this verse, and even back to like the third century, is like, nobody knows what this means. Um, every interpretation of this is a best guess. Um, there's nowhere else where that phrase exists. Um,
Hmm.
and yeah, so seeing that pneuma, spirit, life breath, wind, uh, is the word there, and the word that's usually in spirit is all can also be translated as with. It has a sense of uh, that accompanying or being having a connection with, or it could just be like regarding. So the poor regarding the spirit or the life breath have reason for gratitude. Um, and certainly, I'm taking this to be very literally people in poverty, um, not about somehow spiritually impoverished. Um, and I think because that is who Jesus is talking to through this whole Sermon on the Mount, through his whole ministry, really, is the the people who are in poverty, people who are suffering, who have no resources, no power in society. Um, and so I think what he's talking about is the people in poverty, but who have this connection with the life breath, which, I mean, guess what? Is everybody, everyone who's alive is connected with the life breath. Um, have reason for gratitude because the heavenly reign is for you, not just the elites, not just
Mm.
the the priests and the scribes and Pharisees and whoever else, but for you, for all of you.
Just reading that debut line, that starting line of this teaching of the poor who are with the life breath, reading it within the story that Matthew was telling of like
Mm-hmm.
it's just two scenes prior that the life breath descends on him, right? As a dove. So he's kind of gone through the wilderness, or excuse me, gone through the waters of baptism, mirroring going through the Red Sea and the Exodus, and the life breath comes upon him, and then he's tempted. It's the wilderness temptations. So this is beginning to have kind of this the giving of the Torah kind of moment here, and he's got the spirit, excuse me, the life breath on him. So here he is saying, the poor who are with the life breath have reason for gratitude. His first thing is like, it's good that you are here. It's good for us to be here together, um, without any qualifier. He's just naming who the crowd is, and that's the beginning of his kind of Moses echoey kind of teaching here.
Yeah. Yeah, as you're talking, I was like, oh, is this like going through Torah, starting with Genesis, like the creation and breathing life breath in, and I can see that connection in that verse. I don't know that the progression holds up if you like trying to walk through Torah after that, but yeah, but it
Yeah,
occurred
like
to me that
paralleling
that's there.
teachings about divorce or like with like Abraham doing
Right,
mischievous
right.
shit or whatever. Yeah. I don't think that
Yeah.
holds through it, but yeah, at least that initial template leading up to this feels right.
Mhm.
It definitely does feel though like it holds. I mean, maybe this is what you're saying in terms of the parallel not holding up even like on an inverse, but it does feel like an opposite. It does. I mean, going back to
Mm,
the non-legalistic, no behavior checklist expectations. This is about common humanity. This is about connectedness and those things that make us um, human, but also that which brings gratitude to that process. Because I mean, I don't know. I realize we're not focusing on where do we stop for today? Because like some of the stuff that happens after this verse really helps me with that. I've noticed a lot of people talking about them lately,
mm.
and I think that that makes me happy because we are in a place where we really need more people to recognize how subversive this is,
Yeah.
um, and how completely oppositional it is to empire and to the co-opting of theology by empire for their purposes. You can't do that with this. It flies in the face. So, um, yeah, I'm thrilled that more people are talking about the Beatitudes.
Thank you for bringing that up with the contrast with Empire because, yeah, who
Mhm.
Empire says the rich are blessed. How do you know they're blessed? They're rich. Who's blessed? The people who are have full tummies, obviously. They got enough food, not the hungry. They clearly must be cursed. Who sinned? This person or their parents?
Yeah.
Like so much of the domination system of scarcity and authoritarianism and hierarchy and just playing that kind of pyramid Egypt pharaoh kind of game that is just like this chronic tide in how humans behave. Jesus is saying like that is not how like the wellspring of life actually works. That's not where this thing is headed, and that's not how you have to see one another or yourself.
Hmm. Yeah.
He's calling bullshit.
Yeah.
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 Like that's not the reality I know, y'all. Yeah.
Yeah. It's really exciting.
Yeah. Empire works for the few. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It
Yeah, let's
works
do
for
that.
only a few. Yeah, verse 11 where he's talking about, people are going to give you a gut for this. You're going to get attacked for this paradigm. Like it's but that's how you know like that you're going to be vindicated in the long run.
Mm.
And reason for gratitude is on the horizon going through that dark path that the prophets went through. I mean, it's so like the domination system is so quick to say rabble rousers or truth tellers are unpatriotic. They're not really godly people. They don't know Jesus or the Bible, or they don't have the love of God in them, or they're heretics. Like, there's all these slurs and slanders that you get if you say the truth about the belovedness of immigrants or trans people or poor people.
Mm-hmm.
And Jesus is saying, yeah, if you're on that path, people are gonna slander the hell out of you.
Mm.
It's probably a mark that you're on the right path. You're willing, if you are known
Mhm.
for being for your hunger for justice, and
Hmm.
so on. Let's keep going.
I think I'm just seeing this for the first time, or at least in memory. I mean, I've always loved these verses. I love using poetic language and speaking that over people. You are the light of the world, a city standing on a hill can't be hidden. But in light of what we're talking about with empire, there's
Yeah.
something profound about calling the people we just referenced a city. You know, a city can't be hidden. You are the light of the world. I don't know if that's really what's happening there, but that kind of feels um, like turning imagery of empire on its head and saying, no, this is what a city is. This is what a light is. This is what, and I just,
Mhm.
that's standing out for me at the moment.
That just steady refrain of contrasting with like who does the domination system say is what does the city on the hill look like? What's the light in the world? Where does that come from? Is it coming from like military jets flying over? Is it coming from like the really tidy um idealized suburban family? Like what makes where is the life of the world? Is it the um football match? Is it like there's so many places where we think like this is the culmination of like humans and like this is where the center of like goodness and power resides. And Jesus is saying,
Right.
"Hmm,
Yeah. Well, I think to what you're saying, Francis, like connecting a lot of the world in this city idea is like Jerusalem was a city on a hill. Rome was known as the city on seven hills. Um, and there is this, it starts to making me think of like, is it, is the thing that can't be hitting this impressive place with impressive buildings and infrastructure that shows the wealth and power of the people in charge there? Or is it you, the people themselves, the regular people just struggling to get by? Like, that's a big
hmm,
difference.
Yeah, it's hard. It's in, because I'm looking at it. I mean, you've spent more time pulling it apart. And I think, either way, when he refers to your light and
hmm,
you don't hide it, the going back and forth, it still kind of gives the same feeling, right? The same, regardless of which one, it still gives that, like, you're interacting with a poetic image that is being contrasted with you or is being named as you, either one.
hmm."
It's kind of exciting.
Yeah. And there's so much about like the hiding part of it is this shame of like, oh, we're poor, we're not important, we're,
Mhm.
like, and just like, no, 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 you are the light of the world, not this power structures. It's
Mm,
you.
And he's like not situating himself outside of group identity. If we look through, verse 17 through 20, where he's talking about, like, I'm not here to get rid of the Hebrew scriptures, I'm to like here to carry them out.
mhm,
Um, it ends verse 20. I'm telling you, unless your justness goes far beyond that of the Bible scholars and Pharisees, you won't join in the heavenly reign. The fact that he's saying, like, don't settle for the gatekeepers, what they think constitutes the good life or the sacred. Like
Yeah,
the gatekeepers, you got to go way freaking past the gatekeepers. We're not
right.
asking for like a
Which
more
is not how they
relaxed
would
or
have heard it.
yeah, no.
Right. Like the Bible scholars or scribes traditionally, and Pharisees, like this would have been a shocking statement. They were revered as those who were just and righteous and like following Torah, and like so
Sticklers.
to hear that is like, I don't think that's even how they were thought of though. Like I think they
Yeah.
were actually respected by the people.
Mhm.
Um, and so for him to say like you have to go further than what they are doing, would have been shocking, and like that thought-provoking element of, wait, what do you mean? Like, what are you talking about here? Which is why then he goes on for the rest of this pretty long chapter of like, well, let me tell you what I'm talking about.
I like that. He knew how to get people a little uncomfortable and thinking, like, sit up in your seats with some of these lines.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
just so much pushback in that. So much like destroying of oppressive spirituality.
yeah, yeah. Let's keep going here. There's a passage further down that was it starting in verse 27 that we wanted to go over.
Yeah, I wanted to. You've heard it was said, don't engage in marital infidelity. Now, I'm telling you, everyone who looks at a woman desiring to possess her has already been faithless in his heart. If your right eye makes you trip, pull it out and throw it away from you. It's better for you if you destroy one part of you than to have your whole body thrown into the Hinnom Valley. If your right hand makes you trip, cut it off and throw it away from you. It's better for you to destroy one part of you than to have your whole body go into the Hinnom Valley. It was said, whoever sends his wife away must divorce her legally. But I'm telling you, anyone who sends away his wife, unless sexual infidelity is already involved, forces her into marital infidelity. And whoever remarries a woman whom he has sent away is maritally unfaithful. The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
Oh, I love this for so many reasons. I mean, I'm just going to try not to go crazy right now.
Do it. Go nuts.
Do it.
Right?
We like crazy. Yeah.
It's just so feminine. It's feminist isn't a big enough word for what this is. I'm trying to remember now where he says, and even with sexual infidelity, it's because of the hardness of your heart. But wherever else in the scriptures that was, I don't remember. But that always comes to mind because I feel like it's just so clear to me. First of all, he's specifically supporting women, and then but even more importantly, turning that sword, that spiritual sword, towards those who would accuse and saying you're already doing this. I mean, it's just more of turning religious expectations and oppressive ideologies on their head, which really does go with what you were saying earlier about this being kind of an almost opposite of the law in a sense. And yeah, I mean, he breaks down everything that is old. He's breaking it down and kind of tossing it out. And I mean, I know that we have to be careful. I have Jewish ancestry, and there's always a lot of fear and anxiety that when you're saying he's throwing away the law, that you're being anti-Semitic. And I do not believe. I'm just going to say that I don't believe that is the case. I believe that we're talking about religion and legalism here, and not about one particular religion, but Jesus's reaction to legalism and the way that it harms people. And also, I don't think that there are just so many wonderful Reformed Jews and otherwise who would not be wed at all to this anyway. So that wouldn't be a fair concern to me.
Yeah, he's exposing where like just a flat application
Yeah.
is a place of power. Like we can find a little like leverage point in a flat reading for domination, for patriarchy to seep in and
Yeah.
hurt people.
Yeah.
So you've got to exceed that.
Yeah. Much bigger than the legalistic expectation. It's a whole different system that we're working with here.
Yep. Yeah. And it strikes me that nowhere here does it say everyone who looks at a woman desiring to possess her needs to tell her to put on more clothes. Like it's
yeah, that's such a great contrast.
Uh-huh.
I appreciate so much about this, and one big translation shift is instead of everyone who lusts after a woman, everyone who looks at a woman with lust has already been faithless and has already committed adultery in his heart. You're saying you translate lust as desiring to possess her. Elaborate.
Right. Yep. Yeah, I mean, I think that's what the thrust of lust is, and then you can talk about bloodlust too, where it's not about sex. It's about like there's this craving for
Mm.
using someone else's harm for your own satisfaction and pleasure. Um, so that's what it's at the core of this concept, and it's not about I'm sexually attracted to her. Like that's just a normal human experience. It's this sense of she's not another equal person in this with me.
Mm.
She's an object for me to use for my own pleasure. And that's a big difference.
Wow.
Yeah, I love that. I love it. Exploitation. I mean, I understand he's
Mhm.
calling out specifically a dynamic and a power dynamic in the culture that still exists between men and women in that particular institution of marriage as it expressed itself then. However, but exploitation in general is kind of something that I take away from this. I mean, even for myself
Yeah.
and the way that I relate to people and the way that I form relationships, because that's in there to me. And I loved it. You
Hmm.
called it what it is. This desiring to possess is something that it comes up a lot in queer community. It comes up a lot in discussion of relationships where we can think about things more expansively and we can understand that like there's attachment issues involved here outside of even the oppressive use of power, that there we can develop attachment that stirs a desire to exploit and possess each other, you know. So I just
Yeah.
really appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm reading now verse 28 as that's not just looking at somebody outside of your marriage. It could like anyone
Right.
who looks at their spouse desiring to possess them has already been faithless
Hmm.
in their heart. No kidding. Like that's one of the like live lines of patriarchy is to behold your betrothed, your partner as an object of possession instead of a full human being.
Yeah.
Of course that's a form of infidelity. Yeah, absolutely. Like that's a forsaking of the marriage.
Right. Mhm.
And
Well, and
possessing people. Go ahead.
I don't think he's, yeah, and I agree 100%. And I also have to come back. I start getting a little anxiety there because I'm like, wait a minute, he's being really harsh. I mean, how many times have I, you know, done this, that, or the other? But I come
Yeah.
back to that the setting is blessed are you, or you have cause to be grateful as a human being. This is about calling out the Pharisees. This is about calling out religious legalism and power structures. It's not about trying to make us feel shame if we
Mhm.
find ourselves in the
Yes.
story.
Yes.
And it's
Right.
so easy when we're
Hmm.
to all of a sudden get those shame glasses on again. But this is directed at those with power. And yeah,
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah.
particularly
I
religious
so appreciate
legalism.
that. Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate that making sure to hold it in the full context because we do that with all of scripture, I think, but we do it especially with the Sermon on the Mount. We take each little paragraph as if it's
Yeah.
completely disconnected from everything else. Um, and then that changes the meaning. Uh, but you're right. Like this is about, yeah, what you think is this right way of being that you're hearing from your religious authorities. There's something off there. You have to go further than they do. Not just that they teach, but then they what they do. Um,
Yes.
and this is a not so subtle way to be, I think, exposing what he is seeing them do.
Yeah. Love that.
Often the conventional translation, and it's not entirely absent from yours, um, is used to say you divorced people may never remarry. You're committing adultery against your first spouse, and like with all these weird, like you're ontologically fused kind of myths that often purity culture um, weaved into it. And it's just used to dominate and shame and um, isolate people on the other side of divorce. What,
Yeah.
given our controlling hunch that shame is not the game Jesus plays,
Right.
and he meets humanity as humanity, what else could be going on here?
Yeah. I mean, just like we were talking about in the previous verses, this is all about power dynamics. In Judea and Galilee, like only the man could initiate divorce, and the woman had no say. And as if the man said get out, the woman had to get out, and that's it. Um, and so if he is treating her as this lesser object that I wanted to possess you, but now I don't really, so too bad for you. I don't want to like spend my time and resources with you anymore. And like, oh, you know what? Never mind. You can come on back. Like, just stop. Like, why? Like, it's not okay to treat people like this. It's not okay to treat someone as subject to your whim because you feel like it. This is another equal human being with you.
And this will come up later in chapter. Is it chapter 18?
Uh, yeah,
18 or
18,
19?
19.
Yeah.
I think it's 19. Yeah. Um, yeah, the same kind of conversation comes up there.
hmm hmm Well, let's keep moving along to about verses 38 through 42. There's a lot about retaliation, and like this really begins to come up in. I feel it more viscerally, just getting the vibe of like entering into kind of a police state kind of reality. Um,
Yeah. Not referring to
feeling
anything in particular, of course, right?
feeling like we're in an occupied country, which is something that must be acknowledged. Lots of Americans have experienced this for a much longer time. Black folk in America, indigenous folk in America come to mind is like, we've always had to show our papers. Now you're feeling it too. But that said, holy shit, there seems to be a new layer to this. And
Yeah.
Jesus is beginning to talk about how do you respond to um, cops exploiting people, more or less. That carries a power.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm excited to talk about this.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I changed a ton uh, in this section from what's traditional. Um,
Yeah,
so I
can you go
think
ahead and
maybe oppressor
read those
versus like
verses?
evil one or something. Yeah,
Yeah.
let's read it. Yeah. You've heard it said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I'm telling you, don't retaliate against the oppressor. If someone smacks you on the right cheek, offer your left cheek. If someone wants to bring you to court and take your shirt, send them with your coat too. And if someone forces you to carry their load 1 mile, go a second mile with them. Give to whomever demands something of you. Don't turn away someone who wants to take something from you. The word of the Lord.
Thanks
Hmm.
be to God.
Thanks be to God. Whew.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So
So,
hard. That's a rough
yeah.
one. I
Yeah.
Can I
Tell me
share what
about
this
the oof.
reminds me of? I don't know that it really helps.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I don't know that it helps immensely. But I don't, obviously I don't experience this as don't speak up to injustice, or don't protest or advocate. I mean, I feel like we clearly see in Jesus's larger story that he is bold and resistant, and also I think that there's something here about how we spend our. I want to hear more, but this is just for me, how we spend our energy. And so I had to write, and what I mean by that, I had to write in my preface for my thesis something, and a phrase popped out that keeps coming back to me that's helping me. And that I said this: every day as final edits have been made, the supremacist patriarchal machine has been growing more monstrous. And these are the words that I wanted to share. It doesn't know how to access the roots of belonging and knowing, however, so we can hide there. And that feels to me like you can play their game or you cannot play their game, but there's a whole other place that has roots and belonging. There's a whole other that I'm painting for you here, realm.
Mm-hmm.
And it isn't so much about all of this back and forth and this reactivism. So that's what I take from that. That helps me.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
Yeah, no, that feels resonant. Like it feels like it really helps focus what's going on.
Yeah. So coming from traditions of reading scripture with a commitment to nonviolence, and also it being active nonviolence, not being a doormat like that. I think we can read this part of the sermon with a trust that a guy who pissed everybody off and they lynched him was not saying don't be a doormat, he's not telling people to be a
Right.
doormat. He's not telling you to just like take it from dominators. There's some creative mischief going on. The examples being if somebody smacks you on
Yeah.
the right cheek in a typically right-handed world, that means they're backhanding you, which is usually instead of punching, and that means it's a picture of a officer or Roman officer just backhanding you, and that's not just people. It's not just you getting into a fight or being mugged. It's you being degraded by a dominator and insisting upon give them your full face, like force and insist upon your dignity and humanity in these situations. And make a cartoon of their shittiness. Like, if someone wants to bring you to court and take your
Yeah.
shirt, oh, yo, you know what? I have my coat too, man. Now I'm naked.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's all these like ways of going through these things where it's not as simple as like Jesus saying, just take shit, and that's
Yeah.
holy. Like,
Yeah.
that's not that.
It's
That's not it.
a reclaiming power involved here.
Yes.
Within the
Yeah.
limited means, like it's like, you know what? I'm taking control of the situation in a way that's completely not trying to dominate them instead.
Mm-hmm.
Just like, yeah, I have choice here. I have agency. Like you said, making the cartoon of giving the coat to, or the going the second mile, like, yeah, you know what, this is fine. I've got it. I got this. Why don't, like, let's go another one. Like, it's you're showing them, yeah, you're not beating me down. I've got this. I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in it.
Because that carrying a load 1 mile was a law, was a rule, to
Right.
occupied people, that like a soldier can enlist any occupied person to carry their stuff for up to a mile. And like, how awkward does it get at the 1 mile mark when you're like, let's keep going? Like, where does the conversation go?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I just love the way that this, I guess it's kind of a similar vibe that just specifically pulls you out of the binaries of an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, and changes that reactivity, which I do feel like I really resonate. I see a lot of it now. I see a lot of people fighting fire with fire. And I really, really think that this, like you said, I love that you said that this is about a reclaiming of power, because we're being shown what that power is in this broader context. And yeah, I don't know. There's something else here that's kind of stirring for me, and maybe it'll eventually come up in the conversation. But
Mm. Well, let's keep going here. He gets into the meat
Yeah.
of what love means.
You've heard it said, love your neighbor and hate those who are hateful toward you. But I'm telling you, love a person who is hateful toward you and offer prayers for the sake of those who harass you. That's how you become children of your Father who's in the heavens, because that's who makes the same sun rise for both those who cause suffering and those who cause well-being, and sends rain both for those who are just and those who are unjust. You see, if you love the people who love you, what compensation do you have coming? Don't tax collectors do that same thing? And if you only acknowledge people of your same group, how does that go beyond what anyone else does? Don't even the foreigners do that? So be complete, like your heavenly Father is complete. The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to
thank
God.
God.
One of the things that I always think of reading this is how I've heard it said that everything Jesus teaches you can find in the writings and records of other Jewish teachers, except this. This is the one exception to that, is there no one else says love your enemy.
That's profound.
It really is. I had to read a book recently. I didn't have to. I chose to dig a little bit into self-care in the ancient world. And in fact, I have the book up here. But anyway, I'll see if I can pull it out if you want me to later. But it's fascinating because it gets into actually, now that I've said that, you're going to want to know the name of the, well,
Absolutely.
yeah, I know, but then I'll
Uh-huh.
have to like stand up and get it and then mess up the video.
Yeah.
All right, at the end, I will give the name
Yeah.
and the author. But in doing this recent work, I had to dig into how communities, different early Christian communities, looked different, and therefore got labeled as heretical communities when they probably weren't. They were just experiencing and having a different conversation about their experience of Christ or their experience of his teachings. And so a lot of the information on inward reflection and deeply rooted spirituality, um, well, the context of that conversation led to whether or not this kind of classical view of the martyrs, or turning the other cheek, or just essentially what we were just saying, maybe being a doormat, that at first glance it looks like bad self-care, right? But actually what is happening there is there's just, like another power system that's being accessed. So it may look like poor self-care to be a martyr. It may look like toxic theology to suggest that we should become martyrs, but it's an intentionality, that it is a choice to access something else. And I don't know, I think that that's such an important distinction for us to make when people are throwing around Christianity as an example of sort of this narcissistic martyrdom teachings.
Mm.
And anyway, I feel like
Yeah.
I've really gone off a track there, but
Oh.
yeah, I hope that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. Yeah. It's not about like masochism or like just suffering for the sake of suffering. It's suffering is going to happen. You're not
Right.
seeking more of it.
No.
And it's how do you reclaim power, show what true power is, take away the power of those who can harm the body but not the soul, right? Like
Mm.
uh, by staying true to who you are, who you're called to be, which is a community of people, going back to the Beatitudes, who are living in a way that's transforming the world with that different kind of power.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
It's so ingrained in us, this myth of redemptive violence or redemptive suffering, that it's so like it, which the not just the type that says what soldiers do is good or what cops do is good. I'm talking about even the way that I, there's kind of this martyrdom fetish strand in the church that I think we've all gotten some diffuse amount of exposure to, that says it's like good to suffer, and especially for Jesus, and um, to find a way to get beyond that. Like I think that's a yeah. There's such a theme here of getting beyond binaries, and I think that's a binary we have to get out of. Is like it's just the other side of the coin of thinking that violence redeems and makes the world better. Is like it's a bargaining stage of grief, of the fact that people are dominators and cause suffering to one another. And what he's insisting upon is, yeah, this like rupturing of the binary of, and it's about loving all the way through and all the way down and all the way across. And that is going to be the fullness of divine presence, is when we can be standing on that ground of a love that even recognizes compassion and pity for the Roman soldier, for the transphobic legislator, for the um, exploitive pastor. Go down the list, the slave master,
Mm.
and that makes us complete, like God is complete. It's not perfection is the word. Perfect is usually what's translated there at the end, right?
Yeah, which is, I think, depending on your definition of perfect fits, but most of us think of like a flawless when we say perfect, and that's not what this word means
Yeah,
at all. It's the sense of perfected as in finished. Like I've finished the work and now it's ready. It's perfect. Not yeah. Not that there is nothing wrong with it. Like I don't know that we would say there's something wrong with the Heavenly Father. That's
yeah,
just not what it's talking about.
yeah.
So
And
mature
it's
is a way to talk about it, or complete or whole. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and that feels to me like, just looking at my own parts that get so reactive to the shittiness that is being extended to so many people these days, where I don't want to love these dominators at all, but
Yeah.
I recognize that like that's the far shore of what participating in the divine life of sanctification, to use the old church word, is. Being made holy is to be able to sincerely and earnestly want that for everyone, including the people who have their boots on other people's necks. I feel far from it often, almost always, but I feel how that would be the fullness of theosis, of divinization and participation in this kind of God that Jesus seems to have a very intimate sense of.
Yeah. And one of the very first things that happens after the Sermon on the Mount is Jesus loving someone who has their boot on people's necks, the centurion, right? Like
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
hard.
Oh, It's I don't have any more words at the moment. I'm just appreciating this conversation. Yeah.
I'm just fascinated that this made it through. Like,
Right?
you know what I mean?
I know
How did
what
Yes.
you
they not
mean.
like
Yeah.
hem that in?
I,
Hmm.
I've thought about that so much because I don't know. There are times when I'm reading when something will just seem so out of place, and I'll think, oh, someone obviously added that in because they didn't. They were trying to colonize it, get it back into legalistic order, and I don't know if I would right or wrong in those moments, but I've trusted them. If
Hmm.
they're out of character, if they change the whole character of the whole text and seemed like they would have there would be a motive there. But yeah, this is just like, wow, how did this get through? Oh,
Yeah,
Yeah, really.
there are authors and scholars out there that like kind of make good money seeing conspiracy, and like the canon as it stands is kind of the leftovers of once patriarchal and imperial hands got all over it, and like we've lost the real Jesus. It's like, have you fucking read it?
right.
Like, sure, all those power relationships did did something, but they missed a whole lot. They missed a lot.
Mm.
They did. They did miss a lot. Oh.
Thanks be to God for that.
Thanks be to God. Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, reading Jesus these days, it's like, how did how did this happen? Like, the miracle of the incarnation is that it turned out like this. Like that this is the kind of God that we hope is here. That he would
Yeah.
say
Yep.
stuff this courageous and just absolutely creatively counter-imperial and anti-fascist.
Hmm.
It's so creative. It's not just like flinging mud at people.
Right.
It's so constructive.
Hmm.
Yeah, we're in a season where, like you said, particularly those of us with more privilege who haven't understood. We're in a season where it just is so clear how world changing, how upending and wineskin busting all of this is.
Yeah. Mm,
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Yeah. It's counterintuitive for sure.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, it feels intuitive to wrap up the episode about now. Um, we are thankful for everybody listening and watching, for your company on this leg of the journey. Thank you, Francis Cutshaw, for your wisdom and insights this week.
Thanks for
The
having me.
easy,
This was fun.
oh yeah, the easiest way to support Found
It's
in
fun having
Translation
you.
is to leave us a rating or review on whatever app or player you've been enjoying this on, especially YouTube and Apple Podcasts. That makes it easier for more people to find the show. The robots need to know how to tell people to find us, and that's how you do it. Just a thumbs up and all that. You can find us on Facebook as Found in Translation. You can read The Liberation and Inclusion Translation at www.litbible.net and follow its development on Threads as @lit.bible. You can follow Brandon Johnson on Blue Sky as @litbible.net. You can follow me on Threads as @BDRhodes. Francis, what's the best way for people to find you?
I think on Facebook, the Order of Saint Hildegard, or on Instagram, we're Order of Hildegard.
Awesome. And it's orderofhildegard.org.
Yeah, if you want to go to the website, it's orderofhildegard.org.
Awesome. There's so much good there. I hope everybody will check out the order. I'm thankful to have found it, and hope others will find themselves at home there as well. The music you're listening to is by Kevin MacLeod at incompetech.com. Found in Translation was produced on unceded Chinook and Kalapuya land. Goodbye, Brandon.
Bye, Brandon.
Bye, Francis.
Bye,
Bye everybody.
Bye.